Know that that's not the only work you do. You have to do a project management of your work. You have to sell your product.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into D Education. So in this episode, we have a very special guest, Sujit, with us.
Thanks, Tejj. Thanks for calling me.
So Van, how was your day so far?
It was good. It's Sunday, and yeah, Hyderabad is pretty gloomy. So yeah, that's. But again, tomorrow is Monday, so that's something which came in my mind. Yeah, how is going for you, Tej?
Yeah, it's all good. Super excited to shoot this video with you. So thank you, Sujit, for taking your Sunday and coming on to the D Education and talking about your journey. So if we're talking about your journey, then why not just get started with?
Sure thing. So to start with, basically, I have a 6 years of experience now in design. So I have worked for different products. So right now I'm working as a product designer for Microsoft. That's a brief about what exactly I'm right now doing. But to start the journey, as you said, not coming from a design college, yeah, it's pretty long and a bit difficult also. If I start with the beginning of the journey, it actually started in 2012 uh, when I passed out from class 12th, and then during that time, you also know the industry was not too much into the design, and I remember that time the first movie came into India with all this visual effect and animation was Ravan, and people got crazy about visual effects and animation. So even same with me. I was pretty much aligned to going into animation or visual effect. So I started exploring what are the options there during that time. So I remember I came across Famebox, Arena, like colleges to go and start learning. But yeah, eventually you also know it's a diploma during that time, and it's not a degree. And Indian parents, it's more into like you should go for a degree because eventually you have to land into a job. And I don't blame them because the industry was during that time like that. It was pretty difficult to find out a job if you do a diploma. So what I chose was engineering. I think that was the best option during that time, and I knew that if you do engineering, you can do anything. That was the mindset. Like let's do the engineering, get the degree, and after that, whatever you want to do, do. That was something which was there. So the next approach for me was to actually going into engineering. So the first option which I thought about was more into the automobile and aeronautical engineering. Aeronautical, which I actually wanted to go ahead with. I got in couple of colleges during that time. It was not so popular in engineering, but the fee structure was pretty high. That's the reason. Coming from a middle class company, like middle class place, it's very difficult for you to go into that kind of fee structure. So I thought of going with either automobile, or the next option was actually computer science. So I didn't got automobile during that time because it was a royal branch and people used to take more. So there was no seat. I was not a top student who got it in the top 10, so you get that branch. So yeah, eventually landed into computer science. So when I went to the college, it's not that I was not interested in the coding. That was also part of me because in 12th I did actually I took the computer science rather than biology. So that mindset was present in terms of coding. So it was very safe place, coding, I would say, to basically go ahead with. So I took computer science. I started learning that it was pretty much interested. So during third year, I remember in the college. So a lot of societies are there in the college, and being into one of the society was pretty cool for a student to be there as a coordinator or as in the top level. But I was very average in coding. I was not again in the top. So uh, the way to enter into that society, what I thought is, I remember they have a Facebook group. They didn't had any top cover for that society. So what I did, if I design something for it, like a top cover, they may take me as a coordinator. So that was the mindset for me to enter into the society rather than knowing so much of coding. So I designed it, actually I saw in YouTube. I downloaded pirated Photoshop. It was long back, so yeah, obviously we cannot take a license one. So that's something which I started the journey with. I designed the poster. I remember I sent it to my senior. Um, the person who was actually handling the coding society and all, but it actually flipped back in terms of, rather than going into the coding society, he sent me at a society who was actually working for college magazine, basically designing the college magazine. And I was like, okay, what happened with me? I wanted to enter into this, but now this one is there. But I thought eventually if I go, I'll find out a place, like moving into that place. So I went ahead. So that was the first time I was kind of came very close to design, understanding how a magazine work, how a magazine design works. So I gave a lot of interview for the society and then eventually entered. So I started learning from YouTube, basically how exactly to go up, do the design and more of a graphics and those kind of thing. So after that, because of that exposure, I got an opportunity to design for the college fest, leading the team. uh, but at the end, when it comes to job, uh, coming from computer science, btech, we don't have any design related job coming into the colleges. So uh, I actually sat for the interview because that was the goal eventually. Like if you're doing engineering, you don't get a job. That's a very problematic thing after 4 years, because eventually you have to pay your fees and a lot of things are involved. So yeah, I sat for the interview. I got a job in Bangalore as a developer, UI developer. So I took it because that was the next step. I love, let's go to the Bangalore, start understanding the industry, because I'm coming from a very college set of thing. And also one of the thing which drive me in college is there were a lot of seniors who were doing freelancing during that time. You know, the web development was pretty much during boom during that time in 2012, 2016 around time. So they were doing a lot of freelancing, but they didn't had any kind of designer who actually creates a logo or a banner or those kind of thing to upload. So they used to give me like 100 rupees, 500 rupees for designing. So that was more of a pocket money. So that drive me like it actually hooked me to the design also. Like I'll not say I came with a very passionate thing that I wanted to design, but it eventually somehow pushed me that monetary value, that okay, I'll get some money as a pocket money during college. It was a huge during that time. So I started learning more. So when I got the job of UI developer, I took it because that was the next step for me. So I went to Bangalore. I started working as a UI developer for the company. I was coding, proper hard code coder, front end coder. So I was working for a client who was actually a logistic company, a shipping logistic company. So I remember the first time I came across more than graphics, a product design or a UX kind of a thing. Is first time I was coding that web application. It doesn't have any color. It was pretty plain with text fields all around and two buttons, submit and cancel, those kind of application. And the first thing came into my mind is uh, why it's very easy to put a color. Why not to put a color? Why not arrange the fields and everything? So for the first time I talked with the UX designer for that application. I remember he said the application was actually developed to for the people who works in dockyard. So technically they do not have a lot of mouse options like over, around, and those. The primary task for them was to, it's more of a form filling. Fill it, submit it. Next, fill it, submit it. So to achieve that, you cannot put so much of distraction in terms of color. You need to, they use only tabs. So he showed me some pictures of their system. The tabs are kind of broken in some of the system because it's being used so much. So the first time that that UX or the product thinking stuck in my mind, that this is something which is very innovative because it change or break a lot of things in there. So I wanted to move into design because before that I started working as a graphics, and that's something which is motivated me. But yeah, again that degree came into picture. I started giving a lot of interviews, but the problem actually stuck there. That was something which was there during that time. So after first 6 months, I took actually a bold step. I left the job uh, for the UI designer basically, and I was unemployed for next 3 months, searching for different jobs, giving interviews, but yeah, nobody was kind of ready to take. So I started giving interviews for a lot of startup during that time, because Bangalore was hub for startup. Um, so one of the bike rental startup during that time, they saw my portfolio, which was from the college, like what all design I had done, and they gave me the opportunity. They took me as a UI UX designer for them. I remember going first time to the office. It was proper startup, like a proper 3 BHK kind of a structure where everything is all around. But before that, I worked for a like company which is pretty well in terms of that infrastructure. So it, it's difficult when you have that 6 months of experience and you see that transition suddenly. So I think I was more of frustrated or depressed with my performance, that nobody wants to take me in terms of what I have. So I started giving a lot of interviews in frustration, in angry, I would say, for a lot of companies, and got rejected. Like everyone rejected. I remember during that time there was no online interview. You take a file, you go to different campuses, give the interview. So that was the kind of structure. So after giving so much of interview, I thought, oh, I cannot go for anymore, because it's a pretty disheartening when you keep on getting rejection. So I was like, okay, let's work for the money. Like you are getting some earning, right? Monthly earning, and you are designing at the end. It's okay. The company is very small, but it's fine. But I think that decision was the best decision I took in my life, because when I worked with them, I remember they didn't had any kind of mobile application or the web application. So I started from the scratch, and I started working like at the same time learning as well as developing the same thing in the industry. So it's more of a on-field work. I remember during that time, like we have a lot of tools in UX right now, like where you do A/B testing or a user interview. During that time, it was more into you go to people and talk, like the real people who are using the app. I remember going to different bike station to understand how the people who deliver, the employees, interact with the app, like go and see they were using the mobile application. So that was the more of a ground kind of a research which I used to do, read Google Play Store comments and those. So that was like pretty 1.5 year. I worked with them, and it was pretty in fast pace, and as a startup environment, I worked a lot also in terms of learning, because it was both the thing parallelly going. So it was pretty much hectic, but I'm happy that I created the application for them, the web application, the mobile application, which was eventually went to the actual users, and they started earning from it. So that was kind of a very good learning phase, and I have seen the company growing from a 3 BHK to a co-working space. It was a huge growth for the company, as well as me, and the support I got from that company was pretty high, because I was directly reporting to the CTO, and he used to help me with different kind of thing, connecting with me with other designers to not only like growth of the company, but for me also. So I think that 1.5 year of portfolio somehow helped me to land into a job like Amazon. So after 1.5 year, I remember the date is exactly same when I got rejected 1.5 like 1 year back, and I got the call again after 1 year from Amazon to come and give the interview. So when I got the call, I think the first thinking was either now or never. So that was my mindset, that if you go for an interview, give everything and then come out. Make sure that that's the last option you have. So I gave the interview. There was a couple of round, I think 5 or 6 round, which I've gone through, and yeah, finally got the job. So out of 25 people, I was the second last person to get recruited there. And my previous company actually supported me in terms of having the transition. I know I left them into a very crucial state where they were kind of in a very like great phase going, and I know the application which was there, but they know it was a huge opportunity for me, so they helped me over there. So after that, when I kind of moved to Amazon, it was again a pretty overwhelming situation. When you enter into an industry, you see all the design people around you coming from that theoretical background and all, and you are a person who doesn't knows that naming convention or something, which I'd say more of a theoretical part, but that's something overwhelming. And I frankly, after 1.5 years also, I was pretty scared that maybe they will think that I don't know anything initially, but eventually after working there also, I get a great support from my seniors and everyone. So it was pretty interesting journey in Amazon, working on different products. So I moved in, so it was 4 years actually in Amazon. I moved into different products, like different teams also. So it was a great learning in terms of industry, that how such a big industry works. Even if you create a design, you need to know how to sell it technically. You cannot just create a design and send it, rather than having, okay, you don't have any thought process. So you need to make sure that the person understands. So writing that structure, helping to sell your design, those kind of thing, I think I learned from Amazon a lot. Basically a professional skill, I would say. That's something which was there. So yeah, that was a 4 year of journey. And after that, yeah, recently it's been 6 months around. I moved to Microsoft. I got an opportunity in Hyderabad, so I moved from Bangalore to Microsoft. I thought this is the time when I work on more product, understand different industries. So yeah, that's a bit of kind of my journey over there.
That's a beautiful journey, Sajit. Like lots of ups and downs, and so many great things you learned growing step by step and everywhere. So, but I'm glad. So, you spent around some 4 years around Amazon, right? So, if you could share your learnings on how did Amazon shaped you as a designer, and what were the major learnings that you got out of it?
Yeah. So, in terms of how it shaped, I think being a designer, I knew my work, my core job is to design. But when I landed into Amazon, I got to know that that's not the only work you do. You have to do a project management of your work. You have to sell your product. You have to make other people convinced about your design. You have to make things right. That was a side part which I learned a lot, because design was something which I see, learn from other people. That's my core part. But this was something which was needed, but it was not like primarily being focused. So when I started working on Amazon, uh, I knew to write a mail also need to be very structured. Previously, it was like you have people over there, so it was more of a startup culture. You go and tell them it'll take this. That was kind of an approach, but in Amazon it is very different, to manage those kind of thing, in terms of pressure, in terms of deadline, meeting those kind of thing. So coming from startup, I think the best thing worked for me is the pressure, because the amount of pressure I have seen over there, because it's a very fast moving company when you go to startup, uh, and I was able to handle that. In Amazon, I would say it's 50% less in terms of that kind of pressure. So it helped me in a way that how to manage it in that terms. But when I come to the professional part, specifically writing, I think before that I used to hate writing. So I know I'm a product designer. Technically, I should write also the research, but I used to hate writing. I like what you'll do with writing. Let's go and tell. But that's when I know the value. So I think Amazon showed me those kind of thing, like how to shape a product completely in a such big ecosystem. When you're working in such a big company, you are not responsible for the entire work. You're not responsible for the entire product. You are responsible for part of product. So when you're working on part of product, you need to ensure that your partner team, all the team, you need to be aligned with them. Whereas when I go to the startup phase, it's very different. It's you are owning the entire product. You know what things can be done and not done. So I think that changed a lot. I learned a lot. In terms of when I go to research, Amazon was more into data oriented company. So if I change a button also, if I change an icon also, there were a lot of data around it. uh, Basically why you want to do so, there was a more of a validation and then go for the implementation, that kind of approach. But it was completely different before that. So those are the major learning. I would say design was a progressive learning which I had, but this are the part of learning which I never had previously. And suddenly I saw there was it's a very required thing, being a designer also, and you should improve in those skills. So that was the approach. In terms of the team structure and company, I'd say it was a great 4 years. The way I got a support from different teams and learning, it was huge. So in that times, I think it was pretty great.
That's great, Sujit. Also, folks who are watching this video, the reason why I haven't asked this experience working with Microsoft, because Sujit, it's quite is new into the team, and there are more folks experience who are gonna come onto the show and talk about their learnings from Microsoft very soon. So stay tuned for that. Sujit, now let's talk about a scenario where if there's someone young like you in some tier two city or a tier three city, he wants to come into field of design. So, what are the major things that he or she should keep in her mind?
Yeah. So I would say when I started during that time, design was, as I said, design was not so I'm not interesting, but it was not being exposed in India during that time. But I think it's pretty well doing right now in India. So I always say that I have never been like got that formal education, but that's very important. I never underestimate that. You should not go for a formal education. You directly jump into the field. That's not a right approach. You should definitely go for a formal education and then move towards it. But in case you have not or not got an opportunity, I think building a portfolio helped me a lot. Like I know in college I have worked a lot of things, but I never kept everything in one place. That's why when I was giving interview, everyone is like, "You have worked, but we don't know." So the first thing which I did is technically took all my things and created a portfolio. Like I have created this. That helped me to basically showcase my work which was present. But if you are going through that formal education, I know it's a part of your study where you kind of make this happen. In terms of experience, I would say you don't have to always target for big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google. There are a lot of companies in the market, and I think started working is important rather than working for whom specifically. And um I have seen a lot of learning in startups. So if you should have both the experience, startup also, MNC also, all kind of companies, so you know how to basically adapt yourself in different kind of environment. But I would definitely recommend that don't directly like being from a college or being from before you leave the college, you started seeing all this company which is in surface and every day in talk, all the five big company, and started, okay, how should I go inside this? No, your technically should be what you want to be a product designer, you want to be a UX designer, you want to be a UI designer. Focus on that rather than just the company. You will definitely land it into a job. There are a lot of companies in the market, so I would technically suggest follow those kind of thing because that helped me. So maybe it can help other also in that terms.
Yeah, very interesting topic you brought it up here, Sujit. It's a craft that's more important rather than focusing on aiming on one thing. So eventually, once you build your craft step by step, and you eventually land onto these top companies. That's what I've always said to a lot of folks who have came and asked me, "How do you land up here?" So it's not a direct journey. It's a step by step you have to go, and there are a lot of things that you will learn while you cross step by step, and that's where when you are fully prepared and when you are fully confident on your portfolio, on yourself and all, and when you think you are the right fit for these companies, they'll definitely pick you up. So now let's talk about portfolios, as we have mentioned it twice or thrice in our conversation. So what do you think, Sujit, are most required from a very beginner's point of view to build such good portfolios which help them create these sort of stepping stones in the journey?
Sure, what exactly I did for myself. I know in industry a lot of things works and not there. You go and search in Google, you'll find a lot of answers. But what worked for me is putting whatever I have worked on. like in one place. It was scattered before it. I created a more of a storytelling or kind of a structured way, where I had everything to showcase at a one time that this is something which I have worked on. Initially, I know because you are not working in an industry, you may not have that kind of project that you have done it on field, but it's okay. You take a problem statement, you take some hypothesis, you start working, even if it's a small project. I have done a lot. I took some kind of hypothesis project and build it on my assumptions. It need not need to be proven like how we actually do it in industry, but it's more of an assumption that basically helps the interviewer get to know that's your design thinking process. How basically you structure a problem and what's your approach. So I have a lot of case studies like that. Also, when I started giving interviews, right now there are a lot of design interview where they give you basically kind of a case study and work it in 2 days and send it. There are a lot of company who does. So I have taken those problem statement also. Even if I didn't land it into those jobs, I took those problem statement. I worked in a complete case study. Maybe during the interview, because of a limited time, I did a very specific step. But after the interview, I structured that thing. I created the entire case study. So I remember there was two interview I was giving. The first one I got the case study. I did it in 2 days. I didn't land it into a job. I After that I worked on that case study my own and completed the entire case study. And when I go went for the second interview, they gave me the same case study. So it was kind of a place where I recirculated the case study. That was kind of thing which was present. So that helped me a lot in terms of that. I think initially that will help you because you'll not get actual project. But once you land into a company, all I would suggest it's more into what you exactly work on, your field, what all things you work on. Just completely put everything. Um, uh, that's something which I learned when I was talking about Amazon. One of the learning was documentation. You cannot come up with something where like I have done it, but there should be a documentation and approach. Even if it's not complete, it should be that this is something which I'm worked on. So that helps the other person to understand better. So that's one of the way I would say.
That's wonderful, Sujit. Thanks for these great insights. So before we conclude into the show, I wanted to ask you, like, what are the 5 mistakes from which you have learned that you want to give it out to the viewers out there?
Rather than five, I would say there are a lot of mistakes I have learned from. But uh, yeah, I would not say it's a mistake, but I would say maybe during that time, because of a lot of circumstances, I took that decision. I think the first one was somehow it's not a mistake, but I think if I would have done the formal study, I would have got better approach. But yeah, even if not, you can go ahead with. Uh, then in terms of learning, don't be fear of getting a product being failed. I have seen a lot of product being failed, but learning at the same time. So even if you have worked on the product, be happy to go and be the kind of a devil's advocate if it doesn't works for actual user. I have done it. I remember in Amazon there was a product. I knew if it goes to the market, it will never work. So even if I have invested a lot of time, I basically took that up, and finally we took a decision to roll back the product. So that's something which you should do. uh, Other than that, I think mistake, even initially in my career I thought that I need to land into a job like big five MNC company like Amazon or Microsoft or Google was kind of my dream company. During that time that I should always go to that, I started. That's a big mistake I did. I would accept that's something which is not. Then I started working on my craft, exactly what you mentioned. So yeah, I think those are the learning. Other than, I think on field work, you will automatically learn with an experience. When things works, things doesn't work. For me, something work, for you it will not, maybe. But that's an ongoing approach. But I think the mindset, initial mindset, when it started working in the design field, that was something which I can tell you that you need to be, your mindset needs to be into the craft rather than where you want to go in terms of the company and all. So that's a biggest learning till now I had. So yeah, that's something which I'd suggest.
Thank you so much, Sujit, for sharing all these wonderful insights with us and great tips and wonderful journey with us. So, folks, if anyone is looking forward to get tips, suggestions, or anything, Sujit has opened his calendars on ADP list. You can book some time with him, and he is happy to guide you guys off. So, I'll be attaching his ADP list down in the description below. And going forward, I'll be bringing a lot of designers from the industry so that you can get to learn from them and the direct practical industrial experience that will help you shape your journey better. So thanks for tuning, and thanks once again, Sujit, for joining us in the education.
Thanks, Tej, for calling me over there. It was great.